Hi, I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans. 30% of Americans who are planning home improvements of $5,000 or more will pay for those renovations with a high-interest credit card. That may not be a great idea. A better idea may be to take cash out of your home with a Quicken Loans 30-year fixed-rate mortgage. The rate today on our 30-year fixed-rate mortgage is 3.99%, APR 4.08%. Call us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com.
Rate subject to change. Pay 1.25% fee to receive this discounted rate. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. License in all 50 states. NMLS number 3030.
TV party tonight! TV party tonight!
Oh, we got nothing better to do than watch TV and have a couple of brews.
Don't want to talk about anything else.
We don't want to know.
We're dedicated to our favorite shows!
Oh, my circuits!
Everybody loves Hypnotoad.
Scary dog!
Pearson and Blurnsville.
Futurama!
Good evening. You are listening to a Radulich and Broadcasting Premier Podcast TV party tonight. I'm your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And tonight, our favorite show is Constantine, or Constantine, however you like it. The show that was brought to you by Ever After Productions, Phantom 4 Films, DC Entertainment, and Warner Brothers Television. This was a show produced by none other than David S. Goyer, who brought you Man of Steel and made a lot of Superman fans cry. This show debuted, aired October 24th, 2014 to February 13th, 2015, over 13 episodes. And on May 8th, 2015, NBC canceled it after only one season due to the fact that nobody watched the goddamn thing.
Oh.
This stars Matt Ryan as the aforementioned Constantine. You can see him in previous Arrow episodes, plus he's now a season regular on Legends of Tomorrow. And so this show was retroactively set within the Arrowverse. It also stars Lucy Griffiths as Liv Aberdeen, who was in the pilot, and then completely written out of the series.
Yep.
She was basically replaced by Angelica Salaya as Zed Martin, Charles Halford as Francis Chaz Chandler, and Harold Perrineau as Manny the Angel, who you may remember from one of the great shows, Oz, on HBO. Joining me tonight on this journey into the Constantine show is none other than the disapproving dad, Jesse Starcher. How do you do, sir?
Not bad at all. So I have in front of me, in my hands right now, the instruction booklet to my new microphone, okay?
Okay.
It is, just take a look here, 42 pages long.
Uh-huh.
And by page number 4, that ends the English presentation of the instruction booklet.
The rest of it's another one. It's the same 4 pages printed multiple times in other languages, isn't it?
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah. So I was like, oh man, I can't wait to look at all these doodads and whizum bobs on here, and there's nothing. Okay, well, great. So yeah, I'm trying my new Snowball Ice. What is this called? Yeah, Blue Snowball Ice microphone out. So I'm hoping that it gives me at least a little bit of boost in sound quality, and then, of course, be ready, because I'm sure there's going to be lots of hiccups at some point later on down the road as the podcast goes on. You might hear things that I never meant for you to hear in the first place, because maybe the microphone's that good? Nah, I doubt it. Mark, you ready to talk some Constantine?
I'm as ready as I'll ever be.
Oh, boy. All right, so you tell me hey, we're going to do 13 episodes of Constantine right smack dab after we did Pennyworth. And I never talked more like an Englishman in my entire life.
Yeah. So, you didn't watch this when did you even know this was a thing when it came out a few years ago?
Yeah, I did. My sister was watching it when it was released. I never watched it, though. This showed up on NBC originally, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But I was not paying attention to it. At this point in time, let's see, we said 2014, so Legends was around, or at least was getting started, right? Around that time, because we're 4 years in. I think Legends had started. So I was paying attention to some of the Arrowverse stuff, but I wasn't paying attention to anything on NBC. I remember hearing about it. This was a character that I was never really too interested in, so I was not seeking out or ready to watch the spook of the week when it came to this. But I can remember my sister saying she really enjoyed this show, and most people that I had heard talk about it afterwards were really upset after it got canceled.
I didn't even realize this was a thing.
Really?
Yeah. In all honesty, I didn't pay too much attention to the Constantine character until he showed up in Arrow. And then they reintroduced him again in Legends of Tomorrow, and then I became very interested in the character, and then I started doing a little bit more Wikipedia search, and I realized, he had his own show that only lasted one season. So I was like, we should just kind of dedicate a week really focusing on this character and what he's about. So we did a source material on Dangerous Habits, which the movie was based on, and we'll do some more about the movie on Thursday. We'll do an on-trial. But I wanted to check out this series and see why it only lasted one season. And as I said before, it only lasted one season because nobody watched it. I have the ratings up in front of me, and it starts with a 1.4 with 4.28 million people watching it, and then its second to last episode it dropped to 2.96 million viewers total, and the last 3 episodes were all like a 0.8. So yeah, it starts with a 1.45, and then it just drops precipitously shortly after that. I mean, like the second episode, it dropped to a 0.9 from 1.4, and then a little bit back up again, and then back down to 0.83. And there's several episodes where the rating share was a 0.83. So,
do you think that networks are like, we got to cash in on this comic book thing, and that's why Constantine was something that they looked at? Because NBC, I mean, I don't recall anything off the top of my head superhero related that they were doing at this time, or I should say comic book related, because Constantine's not really much of a superhero. But can you think of anything off the top of your head like NBC was doing at this time or around this time that was, somewhat related to superheroes?
I mean, I know that I think NBC had there was, I think, like a sitcom superhero show, if I remember correctly.
It was like it was kind of like Damage Control or something along those lines. Yeah, I remember that one. I didn't watch it, but I know what you're talking about.
I mean, and then here and there's been stuff. I mean, certainly a lot of, there's been several movies made of like Alan Moore stuff that was all through like DC or Vertigo or whatever. And I think with comic book movies, doing well, after the Iron Man movie and, the Marvel Cinematic Universe really took off, and then, before that you had, or around the same time, you had the Dark Knight trilogy, Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy, which also did very, very well. I think there was this belief, and I think it's going on right now, where it's like we should mine as many comic books as we can for content. So, when you look at superheroes, like, well, you could go crazy and do a really expensive show on some of these more well-known superheroes, or you can look at some of the ones that are more human-based and easier to do and certainly cheaper to film and work with those, but then you run the risk of no one the general public doesn't really know who Constantine is. I mean, as you said in your source material podcast, your source material extra, he started as a bit player in Swamp Thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's had his own series, but people who are deep into comics know about him, but I mean, how much is Constantine really known, in the greater comic book universe? It's not like, he's not up there with the Supermans and the Green Lanterns and the Wonder Womans and Batmans. He's like a third or fourth tier character.
Yeah, he's a cult favorite. That's for sure. I mean, he's known for dealing with the supernatural, and as far as supernatural heroes come, I guess he's probably one of the more prominent ones. But yeah, just like you said, he's definitely not an A-list superhero, somebody that's representing the top echelon of DC in any way.
So your hope is that people will tune into the show because they like the supernatural.
Mm-hmm.
And so here's a supernatural detective. Here's the problem with it. After watching 13 episodes of this was more along the lines of a stupid Hannibal than it was a supernatural detective show.
Okay, now when you say stupid Hannibal, now I don't know much about Hannibal other than what you and Winfrey have talked about, so which is just about everything. But go ahead.
Hannibal sort of takes the monster of the week mystery element and really does it artistically. Like the first season of Hannibal, until Will starts to go a little insane. You have serial killers doing serial killing things, and they're trying to break it down and look for clues and solve the mystery of who the serial killer is and catch them.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets and Hannibal really goes deep with it, and there's a lot more going on than just your basic monster of the week. There's a show on Fox right now called Prodigal Son, which again is another version of Stupid Hannibal, which is there's a serial killer, he kills a guy, he kills a girl, and then your hero has to team up with his serial killer dad who's in prison to try to solve the murder and find the monster.
Okay.
And Constantine kind of followed that same pattern. There's something supernatural happening. It's sort of explained by this very vague, very general, the darkness is rising. And they never solve the darkness or do anything with it because they assumed they were going to have more than one season.
Yep.
And
they were banking on that one.
Yeah. And it's Constantine trying to solve whatever the mystery of the week was. Mm-hmm. And that's really all the show is. And I think, there's a lot of shows that follow the similar pattern. Everything from your police procedurals, where again you have a murderer, you have somebody who committed a Law and Order, you have somebody who committed a crime, and then you have the detectives trying to solve the crime. And the only thing that makes the Law and Orders different is the second half of the show deals with the trial.
Eagle. Yeah.
But your NCISs, all of those shows. I mean, there's just tons of Monster of the Week, detective, police procedurals in some form. And some deal with the more crazy supernatural kind of a thing. Some deal with serial killers, some deal with your run-of-the-mill murderers, thieves, and whatnot. So I think they had the right idea here, but there's nothing that really makes the show stand out from any of the other Monster of the Week detective shows. Mm-hmm. So you either like this character, and Matt Ryan plays a great Constantine. Don't get me wrong. He does a great job. But I don't... First of all, this came out in 2014, and I feel like in 2014, streaming was still becoming a thing, still taking off. I think YouTube was, people watching YouTube shows was building. It wasn't that long ago. It's only 2019. And so I think the competition for eyeballs for any fictional show that wasn't sports related was still very, very difficult and very hard. Very, difficult and hard are the same thing. The competition for eyeballs was very stiff.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, look at us, right? We weren't paying attention, and we read comics and we do a comic podcast, but neither one of us watched, right? Yeah. And I watched all the comic book shows, but this somehow escaped me. And I don't even know if I would have watched it if I knew about it at the time. And I know a lot of people, for example, the CW shows are fairly popular, right? Flash, Arrow, Legends, Supergirl. Mm-hmm. But I know a lot of people who don't watch them until they can binge them on Netflix.
Yeah.
And I watch those contemporaneously, but I watch Black Lightning. I binged Black Lightning over the summer. Mm-hmm. I just ran out of time and I couldn't keep up with it, and I just said, "Fuck it, I'll wait till it's all over on Netflix and I'll binge it in a day or two." Yeah. While I'm home. So, and I think that for a lot of people became how they watch television. 2014, you're in the midst of the cord cutting phenomenon.
Oh yeah.
People aren't watching contemporary cable as much. People are getting rid of their cable boxes, and they're watching whatever is on Hulu or Netflix.
Yeah. Yeah, I can remember really ramping up, streaming at about that time. When my son was younger, that was when I started to realize that, there's actually like almost full series and channels on YouTube that I could watch. So that's probably right. I mean, this is a series that would have lended itself to being streamed. And it's unfortunate because most likely if this would have come like maybe 2 years after that, especially in the middle. What's the Arrowverse? The Arrowverse. What's Arrow on right now? Season what? 8.
The last
season. The last. 2012. Okay, and then the Flash starts 2014, according to this.
Mm-hmm.
So this starts at the same time the Flash does. And really, I think with the Flash, that's when things start to take hold in regards to the Arrowverse.
Right.
So I imagine if this series would have came like maybe just 2 years later, you might have had more of an audience that would have been interested in watching it.
But I think it's also the network that it was on.
Yes, agreed.
I think if you air Constantine on the CW and it starts off in earnest in the Arrowverse, like you introduce the character in Arrow like they did, and then you spin him off into a different show. The Flash started off in Arrow. Supergirl started off with her own show on CBS, but look what they did there. They moved Supergirl from CBS to CW. A year or two before that, it maybe doesn't even go to the CW. It just gets canceled.
It gets canceled,
like
yep.
Constantine did. Mm-hmm. So I don't know all the machinations behind why they couldn't get this thing. If it's under Warner Brothers Television, why they couldn't get it from from NBC to the CW. Because I know that they tried to shop it around, but nobody would pick it up. And then the other side of it was I don't know if finding a second life through streaming had become a thing yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I feel like that just started within the last year or two.
Yeah, I could understand that. It's just I enjoyed this series. I mean, I don't know how far you want to go into the plot and all that. I mean, you kind of just briefly covered it with the whole darkness thing, which really isn't. I mean, it's kind of what the driving force is, but my goodness, I didn't really feel like, other than a few mentions of the darkness is coming. Oh, here comes the darkness. I must do something. Bloody well, do something then. Just okay. But
well, it has a very similar structure to a lot of the CW shows. A lot of the first season CW shows, like they really are working out of the same playbook, and I'll go through it with you.
Okay. There's
a thing. It produces a lot of monsters. They spend the series trying to put the monsters back in the Ghostbusters trap.
Yep.
Okay. Remember what's his face? Oh God, what was the character's name? Mr. Peck. He comes into the Ghostbusters headquarters, and he shuts down the big Ghostbusters vault, and all the ghosts escape. And at the end of the movie, they have to put them back in the box again.
It's true. This man has no dick.
That's right. Well, that's what I heard. So Arrow, and I don't know how much of Arrow you've watched, but basically,
none.
He gets a list from his dad of all these shitty people in Star City, and he starts running through the city shooting them with arrows.
Okay.
And he's like crossing off bad people off his list because these people collectively it's a little different from Batman, where Batman was taking on the mob. In this particular case, these are like corrupted businessmen that his father dealt with. Okay. So the first season of Arrow is him basically with this hit list of corrupted businessmen that he has to take down, and that's season 1 of Arrow. The Flash, the thing that blew up in the beginning of it.
I know what you're talking about. The event that caused all the superheroes, or
Right.
I should say the superpowered beings.
Right. The particle accelerator. The particle accelerator blows up, turns half of Central City into metas. And so he spends the first season taking down all the people, all the bad people who have metahuman powers. Mm-hmm. Supergirl, for years they have been collecting intergalactic criminals into what they call Fort Roz. And like Fort Roz is like broken open. So she spends the first season tracking down all these various aliens.
Tell me that the warden of Fort Roz is Roz from Night Court. Welcome to On Trial.
And so again, so it's the same thing with Constantine. The darkness is rising. The goo is filling up the sewer, and the ghosts are haunting New York City.
Oh yeah, and we even have a map. We have a map that says, okay, where's the next bad guy going to be?
Right. We have a headquarters that's protected from monsters, and we have a map telling you where the next monster outbreak is going to be.
Oh, can I just say, before I forget, I think one of the coolest things about this series is all the magical items that show up that Constantine just happens to know about. Like, that's the demon's breath of a such and such, or,
right.
This is a mirror from a whatever. I thought that was, if there's going to be anything that I really liked about this series, that's probably the top part. I was like, oh, what's the next little gadget he's going to use? And anyway, we have the headquarters that's completely filled with those things.
Yeah, and that's the problem with this season, where all of those examples that I gave you, they kind of resolved the thing that pushed the plot forward by the end of the season. By the end of the first season, the Flash had more or less dealt with. I mean, aside from dealing with all the different metas that had been created, the other part of the Flash was dealing with Reverse Flash, who had stolen the identity of whatever the scientist's name was. And by the end of season 1, he's dealt with that. That version of the Reverse Flash has been captured and sent back to the future to await trial. And then season 2, they're on to a new thing, and I don't remember who the big villain of season 2 was. It was Zoom.
Okay, it wasn't Savitar. That was 3, probably.
That's season 3.
Okay.
Yeah. First season was Reverse Flash. Second season was Zoom. Third season was Savitar. Fourth season was The Thinker, and now we're on season 5. Which is dealing with the crisis of
I have not finished the Thinker season yet. I think I got halfway through it and we stopped.
Supergirl, I can't remember from one season to the next anymore. I know there was one season that dealt with Mon-El and his people. There's another. The last season dealt with the Alien Registration Act and all of that. And so basically, like I said, you get to a fairly satisfying conclusion with each one of these series. Mm-hmm. You have a central villain. Over the course of 22 episodes, they resolve the storyline. There's some stakes. Some of the characters disappear. I think, Supergirl, for example, Mon-El ends up having to leave Earth because he can't breathe in oxygen anymore. It's like some
That's
lead.
tough.
They put lead in the air or some shit like that. I forget what it was, but
lead is in the air.
Characters in Arrow have come and go, some of which have died and some of which have come back to life. Same thing with the Flash. So the contrast that I'm drawing here is that Constantine is structured in many ways like the CW shows, except for these two critical elements. They don't do anything with the darkness rising. It's just there to explain why phenomena are happening, and by virtue of that, the series doesn't really go anywhere. Mm-hmm. Correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, I watched this over the course of 2 weeks in a few different sittings. And I'll tell you what, about halfway through, I got really bored with it.
Oh.
Because I didn't feel like it was going anywhere. It felt like another another show that was kind of structured this way. You have like the A-Team and the Incredible Hulk, where every week there's a new problem, they solve the problem, and then the next week there's a new problem that they solve, and it has nothing to do with the week before. Nothing is building on itself.
Exactly. The building is not there. It's just like,
Right.
okay, that problem's taken care of. Where's the map? Okay, there's the map. And then they show us where the next thing is going to be. All right, now we're heading to Louisiana, and let's go meet our, somebody down there. I remember, I think it was Tim or one of the guys on our podcast there was talking about how it was, it was just, they took Constantine out of London, threw him in the United States, and then it was just like, okay, what crazy supernatural phenomena has dominated whatever portion of the United States we're going to be. Oh, we're heading to New Mexico. Okay, well, let's get a Mexican supernatural villain. And then, now we're down New Orleans. Okay, let's get some Papa Midnight going here. Get some voodoo. So it's very, just like you said, Monster of the Week, but the interest that they were trying to grab was just from different cultures and different spots in the United States. They thought doing that would kind of mix things up and give them enough episodes. I mean, you could think, okay, well, 13 locations. Actually, it doesn't even have to be 13 because I think there's two-parters throughout this series.
Yeah.
They were really hedging their bets on that second season, or at least being able to further that darkness plot past this season.
Right. And I think that's a lesson in one of the reasons why, like, I get really into the Flash is that the Flash builds up especially season 3 with Savitar. They built up that who is Savitar storyline to a fever pitch where it became kind of like Monday Night Raw for me. Where the longest part of the week for me was the end was as soon as the show ended, and I had to wait an entire week to see the next episode. Mm-hmm. Like season 3 of Flash, I was fucking obsessed with who is Savitar. And I used to be that way about wrestling. At the end of Raw, and this is going back to the Attitude Era. At the end of Raw, I was like, oh my god, that's crazy. I can't wait to see what they do next. Same thing with Nitro. With at the height of the NWO story, I couldn't wait to see what they were going to do next week.
Yeah. It all goes back to the Attitude Era, by the way.
Yeah,
everything goes back.
So, and that's the problem with this one, where there are certain Orange is the New Black is a really good example of this, where I binged it in one night because every episode kind of left me wanting to see what they were going to do. How was the next one going to go? I flew through Orange is the New Black.
There's none of that here.
No, I don't fucking give a shit what happens next.
Yeah, there was nothing. I mean, there was even a two-parter. I think the biggest cliffhanger was when Constantine got shot.
Right.
That was it. I mean, he got shot, and then they're like, all right, so second part, how are they going to resolve this? Obviously, we're in the middle of the season. He's not going to die. Then again, he could have very well died, and then they would have figured out a way to bring him back, or we could have, again, followed his journey through hell. But I think that was probably the biggest cliffhanger throughout the whole thing to make me go, okay, well, maybe I need to watch this thing, the next episode, see how he gets out of it. That's it.
Right.
The rest of it is, I mean, I don't even think the final episode left me going, okay, what's going to happen next season? Season 13, I cannot recall how specifically it ends, but I thought, well, they're going to give us something to go on. Other than I know that the Angel was involved, Manny was involved somehow, mm-hmm. and maybe they were talking about the darkness, but I was just like, okay, well, that happened.
So that's actually a good transition point, because I've been complaining for a little bit now and sort of comparing it to other shows. Let me take a break from that and say, here's what's good about this show.
Okay.
Because it's not the plot structure. But the acting is actually pretty good for network television. Matt Ryan does a great John Constantine. He's very personable. He's so much better on Legends because they actually let him do more.
Oh, yes.
He's awesome on Legends.
Yeah.
But, here he's sort of in that... All right, everyone, take a drink. I know I've already referenced wrestling, but here's the real wrestling reference. So everyone, mark your center square on your bingo card. it's kind of... So for those of you who don't watch wrestling and are just, your eyes are hard rolling in your head right now, but like, why in a show where they're talking about Constantine do they have to bring up wrestling? Fucking bear with me. The WWE in its current iteration is very, very structured. Everybody is on scripts. All the wrestlers are on scripts. No one's really allowed to go off script. Everything is sort of pre-plotted out and planned and sanitized and presented in a way that it doesn't offend the many masters at the table, which are the networks, the stockholders, etc. It's a very in the box show, and there's not a tremendous amount of spontaneity. Occasionally they do something, but even then, like, that it's a pre-planned stunt. Like, for example, Braun Strowman and Bobby Lashley crashing through the Titantron. Like, it looked cool and it seemed like it was out of the box, but it was obviously a pre-planned stunt.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Chris Jericho delivers a promo that was utterly unscripted and reacts to the crowd organically when they started chanting at one of the other wrestlers. They were chanting a catchphrase that "We the People" that was associated with him. And Chris Jericho comes out of his promo that he's doing and addresses it and makes fun of the WWE in the process, and then goes back to what he was talking about. And even then, he's not on a script. He's got some bullet points that he needs to bring up. He's trying to get over his new group of wrestlers that he's got surrounding him. And people loved it, and that's the thing they remembered from last Wednesday's Dynamite, which was Chris Jericho in a very organic, unscripted moment.
Yeah, wow. Acknowledging the crowd. Can you believe it? They actually exist. And no matter how many times you say WWE Universe, you got to acknowledge it's there every once in a while. But go ahead.
And so that's the problem with a lot of network television. You're dealing with very, very high-level sponsors, a lot of, like, Ford, a lot of car companies, a lot of high-price advertisers, and, you try so hard to not offend them, not offend any groups, because you don't want people protesting and saying, don't fucking buy Absolute Vodka because they said gay on the show and we're offended. So network TV, I mean, stuff like The Big Bang Theory works. They're not offending anybody, and the show is reasonably funny, and and it did well for many, many years. Friends, but it's always the saccharine, sort of safe television that has wide appeal. And Constantine doesn't really fit into that box. They tried to make him fit into that box with this show. That's the point that I'm trying to make. Matt Ryan does a great Constantine, and he's trying his level best on this show. And unfortunately, like, they give him a lot of exposition, and they give him a lot of walk into a room, sort of take it over, and be the center of attention moments, and and be this really vivacious, charismatic magic user. But then, they don't let him do anything else because, again, they don't want to offend people. Meanwhile, on Legends, he's like fucking dudes. He's, he's in orgies with other characters. It's great, They bring you get to see the Constantine who has nothing holding him back.
Yeah. The ambiguous morality of John Constantine is on display there. You don't really see a whole lot of that here at all.
Right.
You just see straight... I don't want to say straight-laced, because he's definitely not straight-laced.
No, he's fucking Dan Aykroyd from Ghostbusters. He's got... It's just a man who is investigating something. He's got a bit of an attitude, and he's got the tools. He's got the tools. He's got the talent, Mark Radulich. How many more Ghostbusters references are we going to make tonight? John Constantine came, he saw, he kicked its ass.
That's right.
But that's the thing, like, if you take away his, like, British parlance, what have you got left of this character? Just a guy walking around delivering magical exposition. Like it's like it's like if you watch Star Trek, Night of 1,000 references to other stuff.
Well, yeah.
If you've ever read like a behind the scenes thing on Star Trek, they talk about how the scripts will actually like have like exposition and dialogue, and then when they need to explain something sciencey, they just write science babble, and then they have somebody else come in and sort of fill it in. Yeah. And I think a lot of shows operate that way that deal in science fiction. I'm sure The Flash does. Like, there's like a physicist like on payroll who like we need something sciencey here relative to dark matter. Okay. And the guy, and the guy writes it out, and then probably works with the screenwriter to make it sound like human speaking. And then, okay, well now we have that scene settled. And that's a lot of this show. Is Matt Ryan comes on screen, says something funny in British, explains something magical, and then there's an action sequence, and then you're done.
Yeah,
that's the show. That's the whole show.
Yeah, and you might get scared, and there's a little bit of gore, a little bit of jump scares, and then cue the end of the show. We gotta get to our resolution.
So for sort of in the box, safe, sanitary, non-offensive network television, I think he's a delight. Yeah,
I can tell you that. Watching the show, I enjoyed his portrayal of Constantine. There's a reason why a lot of people believe that his take on the character is one of the best. To where not only is he doing it here in this show, he's doing it on animated movies as well. So he's obviously got the chops to do this character. And like you said, as we see him over in Legends, it's nice to see him they've loosened the handcuffs a little bit. They've let him be the character that he should be. His portrayal here is okay. I was interested in the series. I wasn't skipping anything, obviously, but I can tell you that I watched a lot of it with my phone in hand, one eye on my phone and one eye on the show.
Yeah, buddy. After the first few episodes, I was playing a lot of puzzle games while I watched this.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the one I thought was the most interesting. I liked when we met Jim Corrigan, which I'm going to just say that, or ask you, did you know who Jim Corrigan was?
I don't know who Jim Corrigan is now. What are you talking about?
He's the detective in Louisiana that Zed keeps seeing, and he's like full of holes. He looks like he's.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Okay, he looks like he's. So that right there.
The Spectre.
Exactly. Yeah, he is. I'm at a point in the series when we first meet him. I'm trying to figure out, is he the Spectre now? Which he clearly isn't. I don't think after we see him in the last episode, he's not the Spectre now. But Zed is seeing what is going to happen to him that turns him into the Spectre basically when he gets shot. But yeah, I thought that was kind of neat. I mean, what other characters did we get? They could have sprinkled some more paranormal or what is it, Justice League Dark stuff throughout this series, and they really didn't. I mean, Papa Midnight, which you've watched. Have you watched the movie Constantine yet?
I have.
Okay,
which sucked also.
So you know that, and apparently he's a pretty big player. Chaz is in this. He's obviously one of the major parts of this, which, again, I don't know anything about the Constantine universe other than what we just read for source material. So obviously Chaz is a big part of this.
Here's what I can tell you. Zed's the character from the show. Zed's the character from the comic books.
Okay.
She's Mary Zed Martin on... she's a psychic artist. All right, so there's that. Okay. There's Papa Midnight, which we talked about.
Yep.
But Richie Simpson, who's a comic book character. He was a friend of Constantine's before he was being made into a demon.
This is the professor.
Yes.
Yeah. I liked him, by the way. I thought he was actually. I remember him from Lost. I was trying to remember where I saw him last. I was like, I know I've seen this guy before. And yeah, he was on Lost, which actually, you look at that, Harold Manny was from Lost as well. He played, oh my goodness, Walt's dad, because all I can remember is him yelling Walt.
So we have the Spectre.
The Spectre, Jim
and we have
Corrigan.
Namo, who who's Dr. Mist. Okay, he's a fictional character created by first appearing in Super Friends number 12. We have Felix Faust.
Oh, that's right. Felix Faust shows up, portrayed by, who was he portrayed by?
Mark Margolis, who's Antonio Napa in Oz.
So we've got ties to Oz and Lost tonight. Oh my goodness. It was fucking what's his name from Breaking Bad? The guy that kept hitting the bell.
Okay.
Oh, you're kidding me. What is his name? The guy that was in the wheelchair that got blowed up? Oh my gosh, you're kidding me. You don't remember that guy? Click on his Wikipedia. You're pissing me off.
Who are we talking about?
The Felix Faust.
Mark Margolis, yeah. What about him?
He played the guy.
He played Antonio Napa. I just said that.
In
you're talking about like who was his character in Breaking Bad?
In Breaking Bad, yes.
Don. Yeah, I even know who you're talking about now.
Thank goodness. Jeez, criminy, you're killing me here.
That wasn't quite clear. I thought you were having a stroke.
Oh, yes. Okay. Anyway, continue. I recognized him. So, Felix Faust, that's a big name because he's definitely one of the more prominent villains in the DC, specifically, supernatural.
Here's where I think they fucked up with this show.
Okay. Tell me.
So bring me back to that in just a second because I want to finish the good things about this. So Matt Ryan's awesome. The rest of the cast is good. There's nobody gives a bad performance or is super annoying on this show, so that's a good thing. The other thing that really makes the show a winner for me, or some of the better qualities of the show, are the relationships between Constantine and these other characters. His relationship with Zed is charming. I don't know if there's a sexual tension there. I didn't get that as such, but I liked the sort of apprentice, type of relationship that they had. I love the relationship between him and Chaz.
Yep.
It's so good, and like the movie just doesn't even come close to doing it justice. The movie is so bad.
I don't even remember him being in the movie.
He's Shia LaBeouf in the movie.
Okay, all right.
And he's fucking terrible. But like especially the episode where you meet Chaz's family and you realize like what Constantine did to him for him and what it cost him, and everything. And how that affected Chaz's family, like all that stuff is great. So like the interpersonal relationships and the more human stuff that goes on in these shows, where that's not even the focus, but it's all stuff that's there, and I don't think it's meant to be like the primary thing, but it's the only good things in the show. Because when it comes to like the magic using and the demon hunting and all that stuff was kind of after the first few episodes was like,
Yeah.
This isn't all that interesting. Where they really fucked up here is there are so many other good guy magic users, like Zatanna, that they could have used and didn't.
Yeah.
Like Zatanna, if everyone, if you're listening to this and you haven't listened to our source material on the Zatanna book that we did by Paul, was it Paul Dini? No.
Paul Dini. Yep.
Yeah, it was Paul Dini. She's such a great character. And nobody has used her in any like real life thing. She has one movie in Justice League Dark, and she was in like 1 or 2 episodes of Justice League Unlimited. Whoop-de-doo. And she's amazing. She's running around in like a in a sexy.
Can you imagine
magic?
What Constantine would have been able? He wouldn't have been able to do anything on the NBC show, but my goodness, he would have had some commentary for the way she was
in
dressed
the
up.
Pornhub version of.
Oh boy, here we go again.
You totally set me up for that. But no, I mean, like, don't you think, and next episode we're going to get Zatanna. People were like, holy shit, Zatanna's showing up.
Exactly. I mean, if there is, what you want to do is, especially for a brand new series, I mean, just name drop anybody you can, because the more people that are going to recognize the names that are popping up in your show, the more eyes that are going to be on it, the more people are going to be like, oh, I want to see this person's take. Yeah, Zatanna. I mean, obviously,
Dead man.
Well, exactly. That I don't. We just talked about Constantine showing up in an issue of Swamp Thing. That could have been somehow, worked in here just a little bit. Name drop, Easter egg 'em, whatever.
Right.
You got to do.
Let's do a little Swamp Thing in the Floronic Man.
No reason not to.
Right, and that's the problem. The show. I think when the showrunners and the creative people put these shows together, it's almost like they're afraid to dig too much into, and it's a lesson they learned on the CW, and they run towards the comic book. Mm-hmm. Like one of the most fun things for me to do is after the first few episodes, or like last year, right before all the new CW shows debuted, there was an article I think on Rotten Tomatoes of all the new characters that were showing up from the comic books. And
guess what we're getting here pretty soon? Crisis on Infinite Earths, where they are pulling out it's just all the stops are gone.
Needs more Halle Berry Catwoman.
Why not? And I think they realize that the importance of bringing characters into the show that have a little bit of a history, not only just comic book history, but film history as well, behind them. It's not going to result in anything but a win, except for people who don't want to watch that, which I can name one person I know for sure. You hear me, Pat Mullen?
But I think, that's the problem, is I think once you've lost the comic book audience, who's left that's going to watch this? Mm-hmm. When there's so many other things to watch. And, oh, by the way, you've lost a great deal of the public to cord cutting. Yeah. That's the other problem with this. Like I said, we just watched it, but I watched this on DC Universe. You know what I mean? Several years later. I don't know what you watched it on, but I don't know if you have DC Universe or not. But
I have everything.
Fair enough. I think for a while this was on CWC. It might still be, as a matter of fact. So I guess my point is, I think the rule of thumb, and like I said, the CW shows do a great job of this, is that people watch these shows and they want to see the comic books being properly represented. That was what was great about Arrow. Arrow in the first couple of seasons had Huntress and Deathstroke and Black Canary, and you had all of these characters that people who read the DC comics were familiar with. Mm-hmm. Christ, you had at least a third of Batman's rogues gallery showing up.
And Constantine gets an angel that gets a blowjob.
Yup. Which is the best part of the whole series. Harold Perrineau as an angel experiencing man's feelings for the first time all at once was fucking hilarious, and he deserved an Emmy.
That was a good one. It was a good one.
All right, so we've been talking now for about 45 minutes. I'm going to let you have the last word on this because I've been going on and on and on. That's pretty much my summation of the show. The actors are good. The relationships are great. The structure of the show needed work, and the absence of known DC characters, I think, worked against the show that already had an uphill battle.
Yeah. I'm not going to rehash everything that we've already said because a lot of what we've covered is kind of my feelings on the show too. Like I said, I was not completely taken out of it. This wasn't a show that felt like a slog to get through for me because, I know I kind of have an idea of Mark's taste in shows. Obviously, he referenced Oz quite a few times because he recognized the characters. Did anybody show up in The Wire from this cast? Because Mark would have made a mention. So you can see the kind of shows that Mark gravitates towards. Now, I grew up, I can remember being a teenager and watching X-Files and loving X-Files. You talk about different Monster of the Week, that followed a pretty similar formula. And I definitely enjoy the occult and the supernatural. So this is probably a show that I thought would, it rang true to me. It was something that it was something that I would want to watch. So I did watch a good bit of it. And wasn't completely taken out. The story is not too hard to follow. It's just John Constantine and his buddies going through, following a bloody map up until probably about episode 11 or 12 when Manny decides, hey, screw it, you don't need a map. Oh, okay. But yeah, it struck all those, it checked all those boxes for me. But it wasn't something where I was completely upset we didn't get a season 2. I understood we had the darkness coming, but this series did nothing to make me think, okay, what could it potentially be? I would have loved to have just had some kind of an inkling the darkness is going to be this spectacular DC supervillain that's going to be showing up. Boy, that would have made season 2. I would have regretted the fact that we didn't get a season 2. But alas, NBC thought better of it, and obviously the viewers did as well. And we decided not to get any more of Constantine on the NBC. I love his addition to Legends. I was really kind of wondering when he first appeared where and how he would fit in, and they did a great job of weaving him in there and making him an important part of the cast. He could have been a bit player. Speaking of bit player, he was a bit player in Swamp Thing. He could have been a bit player in Legends, just somebody that kind of showed up every once in a while. But no, I mean, he actually, his contribution to that show was definitely valid. So, all right, but yeah, final thoughts on this. I mean, take it or leave it. It's John Constantine. It's Matt Ryan. I think if anybody's a fan of Matt Ryan, you could probably see him in better roles on Legends, but you wouldn't get 13 straight episodes of Matt Ryan doing Constantine's thing. So there you go. That's where I'll leave it, Mark.
Yeah, my recommendation is, if you were a fan of this show but you haven't checked out Legends of Tomorrow, you really should. It's some of the best, in my opinion, and we reviewed one season of Legends of Tomorrow on TV Party Tonight last year. It's really one of the best second tier TV series out there. And what do I mean by TV? I mean, first tier, you've got your HBO and your AMC and Showtime, the stuff that typically wins fucking Emmys. Mm-hmm. And then there's that second tier that isn't winning much of anything, but is solid entertainment.
Oh yeah, it is entertaining.
There's some, so I raved about last season's Legends of Tomorrow. I thought it was fantastic. Mm-hmm. I think that's the one. It was last year. Wasn't the Spear of Destiny? Was it?
Oh, I can't remember. It's been a while. I remember that there was a lot riding on.
The Spear of Destiny was the season before, because at the end of that's the one where they broke time.
Yeah, I remember this one being it revolved around a theme park, and there was a big battle at a circus.
Yeah,
if I remember right.
If I remember correctly, whatever. I feel like there's a season where the Legion of Doom is trying to get the Spear of Destiny, and at the end of it,
that's previous to this season.
They go back. That much I remember, but I don't know how many seasons back it is, because it might have been season 2. Because at the end, I know at the end of they deal with Constantine in one of the seasons, but he only shows up for like a minute, for like one episode, and then at the end of it, whatever it was they did let out a whole bunch of other magic. Okay, this was the season with Damien Dark.
Ah, okay.
And it was last season.
And Nora, okay.
Yeah, Nora Dark and Damien Dark. Whatever it was they did that defeated Damien Dark let out a whole shitload of other magical creatures.
Mm-hmm. The unicorn.
Yeah. And so that's why Constantine hung around, was to help them get all the magical creatures back to where they were supposed to go.
Yeah.
And they built the confinement thing, and that's when they introduced the one Asian gal who becomes like a werewolf or whatever. That's all last season.
I got you. I'm following.
Anyway, he's great on that, and if you haven't checked out Legends of Tomorrow, or you checked out the first season with Vandal Savage, which is honestly its worst season. This show has gotten so much better since season 1. See, I binge watched season 1 because I didn't watch it live when after it came out, and the first season just deals with Vandal Savage. It's a bit dour.
Oh yeah.
So it goes from very, very dour and kind of, it didn't really, it had that sort of melodramatic Flash and Arrow identity to it. So it definitely fell in the same vein as the preceding CW shows. And like 2 or 3 seasons later, there's a finale with a giant Teddy Ruxpin that's like fighting a dragon or whatever.
Spectacular.
They go to the time of Elvis, and Elvis has like a possessed guitar.
Oh, great stuff.
The show is so fun now. In the first episode of it this past season, they fought a unicorn which attacked a guy, and he ended up losing a nipple.
Which is a recurring thing throughout the season, which is so great.
And at the end, he gets the powers. He ends up having control over a fairy godmother, and he has a magical nipple that's evil. So good.
That's textbook just cotton candy entertainment for me.
Yeah,
I will eat that up and watch it. I will binge it if I can. So yeah, I loved it.
Yeah. So like I said, if you watch the first season of Legend and you're like, I get enough of this with the Flash and Arrow, give it another chance. It's definitely worth watching, especially now that Constantine's on the show. Which they added Kid Flash, and then I think they were like, we regret this decision, so let's not write him into any episodes.
Yeah, he shows up, and you're like, well, what are they going to do with him? Nothing.
He's not even on the show after a while.
Nothing.
They added Constantine to the main character, and he was a big part of last season, and he really, for me, he made the show.
Yeah.
Like, he freshened it up real nicely.
Absolutely added to it.
All right, so that's our coverage of the Constantine TV show. Jesse, any last words?
No, man, I'm glad I got a chance to watch it. Again, this is one of those things where I will look forward to this more than I did Pennyworth. I'll tell you that right now. But I am glad I have it under my belt, and if anybody asks me what I thought of it, I could say, hey, check out the episode, and maybe you'd like it.
Yep. All right. Tomorrow, Baby Metal Galaxy. We did a Metal Hammer of Doom extra for Distortion. That's up, unless you had to watch it on YouTube, in which case it got blocked.
No, I don't think I put it on YouTube. Well, did it get blocked on our YouTube?
It got blocked on my personal YouTube, yeah.
Oh,
okay. When the show uploaded.
Of course.
Yeah. So,
they don't want to hear what we have to say, I guess. Like we have a reputation or something.
Yeah, let's have to remember tomorrow when I post the show not to bother with YouTube. I really don't need all the messages that I got blocked. And then Thursday, Sean and I will do an on-trial for Constantine. I'll be prosecuting. This will be really easy. My prosecution is going to be, it sucks.
I really like the show. I don't know what your problem is, but I like that movie. Of course, I had no idea it had anything to do with a comic book character. I had no idea.
Oh, God, did you really?
Yeah, I did. I don't know if you remember talking about that on the source material or not.
I don't listen unless I'm talking.
There's a peek, ladies and gentlemen, right into the old psyche of Mark Radulich.
What a dick! And then nothing else. Shit on a stick. Stop! Damn calendar's running away from me.
There goes the calendar again.
We might do some... No, we're not doing any boxing coverage this weekend. I can't get anyone to watch this bare knuckle show. Can you steal pay-per-views?
Don't even ask me to do that. I'm sure I can, but I've not tried in a while. And the streaming is probably like sucking ass.
I think you and I should do a watch along for this bare knuckle event.
I find somebody else, sir. I'm in mourning. This savagery that you have. Where didn't a guy just die boxing
in a traditional boxing match? It's not bare knuckle. It's different.
Oh, let's go for a little bit more dangerous. What do you think? What? That's not bare knuckle. I watched it, I watched it was just a teaser of what was going to happen, like a freaking GIF that popped up on my phone because one of you guys shared it. and it showed some dude getting punched in the face, and I was like, "Geez, this is brutal. What is this? Bare knuckle boxing."
No, I don't think that was it.
You're a savage. You're a savage, Mark Radulich.
Well, yeah, but I don't think that was it, though.
Well, yeah, I am.
I think
sir.
what we showed
I'm passing.
you. I think what we showed you was an MMA fight where somebody got hit in the face and he face planted.
No, sir. This was this. I'll agree with you this time.
Okay. So no fight coverage this weekend because everybody I know is a bunch of pussies. And there's no one wants to have any fun.
Okay, any other more guilt you'd like to pour on these poor souls that like to podcast with you?
I'm not going to go there.
Oh.
I totally was about to make a joke and I was like, no, that's in poor taste, even for me.
Oh. Wow.
Yeah, I had self-control, Jesse.
There you go. Every once in a while, in a great while, you will.
Speaking of self-control, next week on the Source Material podcast, we'll be doing Fear Itself. Myself and Robert Winfrey will be reviewing Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, because it's the season of The Witch. We got a double shot of shows, because why have a day off when I can do 2 podcasts? We'll be doing Insatiable Season 2 in the afternoon, and then Lacuna Coil, Black Anima in the evening. On Thursday, the 24th, we'll be doing an on-trial From Dusk Till Dawn. Nothing on Friday, but Saturday, myself and Robert Winfrey will be doing boxing coverage for Eric Lubin versus Nathaniel Gallimore on, I believe, PBC on Showtime. So that'll be fun. And the following week, we finally end October with a handful of scary, scary, scary shows. We've got Blackest Night, Zombieland 2, and then we're not going to do the new Mayhem album anymore. It just, stuff happened, and I ran out of time, and I had to change some things on the calendar. But we are going to do, instead of giving you the Metal Hammer of Doom, we're going to do something a little bit different. Jesse and I are going to do a TV party for Lords of Chaos. So you're still getting some Mayhem, just not the new Mayhem album. So there you go.
I like it. I had my wife watch the trailer of that with me, and I'll have her watch the movie with me as well.
It's nice that your wife does that for you. It's funny. I was talking to my, the woman I jokingly call my work wife, and she made a crack today at work because I said something about wrestling or whatever. She was like, I could never date a guy who was into wrestling. It would never work out. Well, that and him he has his pesky wife.
Oh, whoa, whoa. Damn, girl, slow down.
And then I said to her, I'm just like, you're right, it wouldn't work out between us because, it's like, I already have a wife that won't watch anything with me. Why would I take a parallel jump?
Yeah, this is just a lateral move here.
Right.
Like, I'm not gaining anything.
I'm not gaining anything with you.
Oh, my.
Still going to be sitting on the couch watching my superhero shows and my combat sports all by my lonesome with my hand down my pants.
No one to talk to. Nobody gets me. I'm so put upon.
No, I'm the most put upon person here.
Well.
Nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Nobody knows but Jesse.
That's right.
All right, I'm done.
He is done. Ladies and gentlemen, go give the Radulich in Broadcasting Network Facebook page a like to stay up on top of all the great podcasts that we have to offer. All sorts of great podcasts out there. We talk movies, we talk TV, we talk comics, we talk wrestling every once in a while, that's for sure. And apparently boxing and savagery. So you can check out all of that. All of that.
The great savagery.
You can check out all of that right there on the Facebook page. We'll usually post links to that. If not, go subscribe. You won't even have to go anywhere. Just subscribe to whatever podcast player that you use and type in Radulich. You shouldn't have any problem finding us. You'll get all that stuff right into your feed. And if you are interested, okay, we're looking for you. We're hoping you're out there. That 1 or 2 patron people? That's not a good idea. No, Mark, no.
How about Patreon?
Patrons for our Patreon. I still have problems with that. We have a Patreon out there, and we would love to have some patrons. We have some exclusive content, specifically just recently for our John Constantine discussion for source material. I went and looked at the first appearance of Constantine in comics. Happened in Swamp Thing. Can't remember the issue. I think it was issue 37 in 1985. So if you'd like to know where the first appearance of that character happened and what happened in that issue, you could check that out and hear our thoughts about it. And then our upcoming discussion on Fear itself, I went and talked about the first iteration of Captain America picking up Thor's hammer in the Mighty Thor 390. So that is right now some exclusive content, along with a bunch of other commentaries that are no longer on the network. But listen, all you have to do is pay $1 a month, ladies and gentlemen, not a week, a month. That you can. We got what they call custom donations. So if you feel like, oh, you know what, these guys, holy crap, here's $100 a month. I'm not going to cry about it. I don't think Mark is. You practically help pay for the network at that point in time. We may be talking about you and plugging you for the rest of the freaking rest of the month or something. I don't know. But there it is, Mark. I'm ready to get the hell out of here. Let's go.
Let me say this last thing. If you listen to our podcast on iTunes, take a few extra seconds and give us a 1-star review and tell us how terrible we are.
We'd appreciate that.
Okay. Look,
Any feedback is feedback.
Everyone else asked for a 5-star review. Well, I'm not begging you motherfuckers, okay? Get on there. Get on your little phone. Get off of Facebook. Get off of Twitter for half a second. Go on the podcast app that you're using to listen to this, okay? And leave us a 1-star review. And be like, these guys can't fucking focus.
We start at the bottom and then work our way at the top. Okay, that's how things go. So you give us a 1-star review, maybe we'll shoot for a 2 later on down the road.
Jesse's a little incorrect. We start at the bottom and work our way left.
Left. There you go. Okay. My bad.
Speaking of parallel moves. All right. Thank you for joining us here on TV Party tonight on the Radulich Broadcasting Network. For Jesse of the Source Material Podcast, I'm your mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. Be well, be safe, and behave.
Fall-time tips and fun facts from Paul, Kristen, and Dexter at Total Wine & More.
I love exploring new wines, all from the comfort of my backyard. Just order online at TotalWine.com for same-day delivery.
I'll help you explore our 1,157 wines under $10. Spend less, impress your friends more.
From Tito's to Tower, we've got 700 vodkas to choose from.
Total Wine & More has you covered with 8,000 wines, 3,000 spirits, and 2,500 beers at always low prices. Now offering same-day delivery at TotalWine.com. Cheers! Fall-time tips and fun facts from Paul, Kristen, and Dexter at Total Wine & More.
My famous shrimp recipe calls for a little lemon zest and a bottle of chilled Spanish cava to pair.
Explore more than 8,000 wines, now available with same-day delivery.
With the largest selection of premium wines in South Florida, I can help you find a new bottle to enjoy every day for the next 146 years.
Total Wine & More has you covered with 8,000 wines, 3,000 spirits, and 2,500 beers at always low prices. Now offering same-day delivery at TotalWine.com. Cheers!